Hi, everyone. It's Kimber, the Study Abroad Specialist, and welcome to day 17 of the Learn How to Study Abroad in 30 Days series. If you have not caught up on any of the other videos in this series, definitely check out the playlist so that you can get caught up. We are now more than halfway through this 30-day series. And so in today's video, we're going to be talking specifically about some of the do's and don'ts of follow-up. Let's go ahead and dive into that. For day 17 of our series, we are going to up the tempo a little bit from day 16 where we were talking about if things don't work out, and we're going to continue on our path of just assuming things are going to work out and talk about some of the best practices of following up on your application. So with application follow-up, this is something that I always just like to say that this can be applied to anything in life, particularly as you move towards your career, when you are applying for jobs or if you're applying for a grant, whatever you're trying to do. But particularly with study abroad in this context, just wanted to give you some do's and don'ts of the application follow-up process. And I can say that, I have been guilty of some of these things, but now being on this side of it where I work with students and where I own a business, and so I understand what it means when someone is emailing you 50 times about something and you're like, can you please just go away? Like, I will get back to you. Yes, I saw your email. I don't need you to call me about the email. I saw it. So with the do's and don'ts of application follow-up, there are a few things to keep in mind. So you'll want to, by starters, make sure that you are respecting the documented dates of notification. So for most programs out there, there are some that don't, but this is information that you can find out in your discovery well before you send in your application. But for a lot of programs out there, they will specifically list on their website or on their social media or wherever you are finding them kind of what the timeline is. So they'll have, obviously, you knew the timeline for when you need to apply, but then they'll have the timeline. It'll say something like decisions are sent out by, or application notifications are sent out by, something like that. So this is just their way of saying that this is what our scope is. This is what our timeline is. So you'll just want to kind of understand what those documented dates are. If you are in a situation where the program doesn't list that, then feel free before you submit your application to get in contact with the program director, or if it's at your school, you could actually, just go to the study abroad office if you're doing a faculty-led program and say, like, what is the standard timeline? Now, with the timelines, we'll get into this in a second, but you'll just want to keep in mind that it is just a timeline, and it's usually a working timeline, meaning that things come up, people get sick, people are out of the office. And so while most organizations try to stick to timelines, because again, it matters for them because they have to do, budgeting and figure out who's going to be teaching what, who's going to be traveling with who. All those things matter, that certain times of the year are more busy, and also that certain things come up unexpectedly, particularly within organizations. And so you'll just want to keep that in mind, that just because they have a timeline, it tends to be a working timeline, and that things tend to shift. And I always like to say that it's within like a 7 business days range, that sometimes maybe if they say something is going to happen on the 12th, that it may not happen until the 17th, the 18th, just giving you that wiggle room. Now, if they are a great program, then they will likely do some updates. So they may send you an email saying like, thank you so much for your patience. We are working on it, but the application has shifted. That would be wonderful if all programs do that. We know that they don't all do that, but maybe they'll do an update on their social media. So just, you want to keep your eyes open, your ears open to everything, keeping in mind that you obviously assume that they're going to get back to you on the particular day that they say, or within that particular week, or whatever that's going to look like. But just knowing that that may not always happen. So just make sure that you have a lot of patience. This is something that I've tried to stress throughout these 15 or 17 days now of this series so far, is that you want to make sure that you have a lot of patience in everything that you're doing. Again, as we said from day one, this is not a short-term process. Even though it's short in the scale of you're not working on this for years, it is something that takes longer than you would think. You don't just apply and then the next day you hear back and you're ready to go. You're in it for the long haul, regardless of what type of program you're doing. So just keep that in mind, to have patience. Now, this is the part that I really want to stress, is you want to meet the line, and I put this thin line here, between being proactive and being a nuisance. And I can tell you the difference between these because I have been both of these. So I am speaking from firsthand experience, particularly earlier in my academic career and earlier in my career in general, when I was just kind of ambitious and trying to grab everything. And, I was definitely the type of person that wanted to do every internship and get every opportunity. And there is definitely value in that. However, your delivery is what matters. And so as someone now who is a bit older and more experienced and now works on this side of things where I'm getting bombarded with emails and asks and all these different things, I can tell you that proactiveness is something that is going to take you very far. We need more proactiveness just in life in general, and particularly from a student. If you are a student who is very proactive, that's not going to go unnoticed. So being proactive in this particular instance would be that, let's say from the start of you wanting to do a certain program, you have figured out the program you want to do. So maybe from the beginning, you just did a quick, nice, simple intro to the program leader. Again, you're not soliciting about anything. You're just saying hi, I found your program. I'm so excited to apply. Maybe you ask them a few questions about the program. That is great. And then as you're going throughout the process, maybe you have other questions. Maybe they do like a Q&A, or maybe they have a seminar. There's all different types of things like that happen when you're first applying for a program, and you're just very engaged with that. And then once you actually apply, maybe right before you apply, you reach out and say, I just want to know, has anything changed about the process? Can I just confirm this is who I send it to? This is where I send it. All those kind of basic things. That's totally respectable. And then even after you submit and you kind of go ahead and submit everything and you're in that waiting period, if you want to reach out, let's say if it's been 10 days since the deadline of the 12th has gone by and you're on the 22nd and you're like, well, I haven't heard anything. Did I miss an email? I've looked on their social media. I haven't seen anything. That's just being proactive. And again, just keeping in mind to give people grace, because maybe they were going to update it on their social media and something happened. You don't know what is going on. But of course, they're kind of used to people now. It's been 10 days, 10 business days. People are starting to reach out. And so, you're just being proactive about the situation. That is perfectly fine. We always encourage students to be proactive and get out there. That is how you find opportunities. Likely, you are a very proactive student if you are researching study abroad and you're watching this video because it's something that you want to do. It's something that a lot of students never do. So I want to give you kudos for that. So being proactive is great. What you don't want to do, and we have talked about this in similar ways, I think that the most relatable part is probably with the letters of recommendation, right, where you're leaving everything to the last minute. It's a little bit different, but it's also the same of you do not want to be a nuisance. So if you are applying for a program or if you are working with someone similarly, you're going to want to carry this forward even into your professional career where you're not following up every other day. You're not sending them an email every other day. You're not making a phone call every other day. If you are on campus with them, you're not showing up their office every other day. And I say this because I know that you can talk to any program director out there, whether they be at the study abroad level or just at college level, high school level. There are some students out there like that, and we are not fans of those people. And I have been that person, I must admit. As I always say, I always like to start out with my own mess and say that I have definitely been that person, particularly early on in my career, where it's I was so eager and I want to know and I need to know it now. And you need to stop. It has to stop. So you don't want to be a nuisance. Again, you want to find that line between being proactive, but also knowing enough. So even from the beginning of your journey to study abroad, when you are first researching programs, it's okay to do a light tap in the beginning to sort of make that connection with the program director. Keeping in mind, they have lots of people they talk to. So even if you don't hear back from them, that's okay. You just want to sort of make that first touch point and say so interested in the program. You have a few questions. Even if you don't hear back from them on the questions, you'll figure it out yourself. You will go through and do the research yourself. It's just to kind of make that initial interaction. And then, okay, you go to the online webinar or the in-person seminar or whatever it is, the information day. You ask questions, whatever that is, that's perfectly fine. You also too, before you submit your application, you may have a few extra questions. There's someone there likely that can help you. That's perfectly fine. But when you start to get into the nuisance level of things, it means that you are starting to just really be interested in attention. We see this all the time, particularly people from the sort of admission side of things. I can tell you that even myself working in a different area of admissions and education, that you see this, that there are a group of people it doesn't matter where they come from, it doesn't matter what country they come from, that they just want to be seen. And we typically don't like those people. And to be honest with you, a lot of times, sometimes that can make the difference between being accepted and being rejected. Because do you want to have an annoying person in your program? Absolutely not. Do you want to have it if their parents are going to be annoying? Absolutely not. It doesn't always make the difference, but you have to understand that you are being judged not just on what is in front of the academic department or what is in front of the admissions department, is that you're being judged on everything from the point of the touch point of you getting started to the point of you being accepted and being, you know, someone that is going to go to the program. You're being judged on all of that. So every email that you send, every type of communication that you have, every interaction that you have. I know that, for example, and a lot of you out there are probably still too young to actually be applying for real jobs. Maybe you're not at the graduate school level, but you will hear this as you move forward in your career. For example, when you're going on an interview, you want to be nice to every single person that you come in touch point with from the moment that you step in the door. So a lot of times people are like, oh, they're just a receptionist, they're just the coffee person. It doesn't matter. Things like that trickle down. I can tell you from experience that a lot of times that is the first place where a hiring manager will go and say, what were they like when they first came in? Were they nice to you? Did they look you in the eye? Did they greet you? Did they, say good morning? What was that like? You want to treat this process the same way. If you are emailing someone to ask a question about your study abroad, it doesn't matter if it's the intern answering it. You want to make sure that every interaction you have with these people is a positive one, and it could make all the difference. So keeping in mind, I know this was a little bit longer, but make sure that you are being proactive, but not a nuisance. It is not going to end well for you in a lot of ways, and it often can mean the difference between being accepted and being rejected. And so as we talked about in the video, you definitely just want to continue to walk the fine line of being proactive and not being a nuisance. We don't want anyone here doing that. Of course, none of you would ever do that. So definitely just remember to keep these tips in mind. Keep your patience going, and you will hear back sooner rather than later. And hopefully it is a great result. So if you have not had a chance to watch any of the videos again in this series, check out the playlist. Otherwise, I am so excited to see you back here tomorrow for day 18.